So, what is this live about? I'm sure all of you discovered that the second book of the Ram Chandra series is on Sita Devi, on Lady Sita. It's called Sita, the Warrior of Mithila. But I want you guys to be a part of this journey as well, not just as readers, but even before that. We also want you guys to design covers for us, to design covers for the books. How does this work? Basis the interpretations and art that you want to show on the cover, you have to upload that on my Facebook page and of course on your site as well. Don't forget to tag it. You have to use the tag Design for Amish or Unearthing Sita. Contest will remain open till April 30th. A jury of designers and myself, we will go through all the designs that you guys have submitted and we will select the 5 best options. There will be an official cover design, but what we are going to do with these covers is that the people who actually are the designers of the 5 selected covers, they will be invited for the main launch event of the book, which will be around end May, early June. You will be up on stage with me. The covers that you've designed will be displayed. We will also make a special edition of a small print run of the covers of the 5 winning entries, and free copies autographed by me will be given to each designer of each entry. So the 5 designers who have designed the 5 winning entries, and they can distribute those copies free to their friends. I hope you guys won't sell it. So just to ensure that we don't miss any of the entries that come in, what you guys should also do is email your cover design to this email ID, contest@authoramish.com. If you have to design the cover, how can you know that? How can you design that without actually knowing the story? I will take you through introductions of Sita. Few key things obviously have to be there on the cover if you want to win the contest. The name has to be there. So obviously Sita, Warrior of Mithila. That is the name of the book, and that has to be there on the cover, ideally on the top, but you can put it anywhere you want to, but normally it's on the top, the name of a cover. You have to put my name since I'm the author. My name is Amish, and as you know, I don't use my surname anywhere on any activity connected to the books. So put my name Amish at the bottom. The rest what you do is up to you. This is the first session to give you the first set of clues. As I said, an official cover is being made. The ad agency is working on it, but I am more interested in the stuff that you guys sent. You know, whenever you think of a character, the words themselves, even the name, forms an image in your mind. But to design a cover itself, that is not enough. You need to have some clarity on what she looked like, what does she stand for, what are her physical attributes, what is her personality, because only then can you bring her alive in a design on a cover. So she had the look of the mountain people, and she was tall for her age, and her tough training had made her lean and muscular. She was fearless, challenging even older students if she was upset about something. There was this one incident in the Gurukul where a fellow student insulted her father, and the result was that Sita thrashed the living daylights out of that boy, and he was stuck in the hospital for some time. But over time, her fierce warrior spirit was molded into the controlled ferocity of a warrior. Which brings me to her physical features. Now, considering the kind of woman that she was the warrior of Mithila. She wasn't one that was too concerned with how she looked, with too much shringhar. So let me read out her actual facial description and a body description for you. Her wheat complexioned round face was a shade lighter than her body. She had high cheekbones and a small nose. Remember, I told you she had the look of the mountain people. Her lips were neither thin nor full. An old injury had given her a birthmark on the right temple, of which only a faint scar was left now when she was grown up. Most of the time, her straight jet black hair was braided, often twisted into a neat practical bun. I don't have a neat practical bun right now, but I'm sure you can imagine it. It was braided and twisted into a neat practical bun. Her most striking feature, though, was the determination on her face and the glint in her eyes, hinting at the ferocious warrior within. Okay, the attire, the clothes. Her attitude to life reflected in the way she dressed as well. She wore simple cotton garments because they were practical for someone who had to be prepared for any job to be done. So, she wore a dhoti, a single cloth blouse, an angvastram draped over her right shoulder, and a janeu, the sacred thread, I am sure you guys are aware, slung across her body from her left shoulder to the right side of her waist. A small knife scabbard, she always wore that scabbard on her person. You never know when you needed to fight someone. She wore no jewelry nor carried any ornamental pieces of clothing, which, like I said, can be a hindrance if you have something practical to do, like fighting someone. She wore a pendant of a Rudraksh seed. Rudraksh is literally the tears of Lord Rudra. This is something that all devotees of the Mahadev wear. I wear a Rudraksh seed as well, and since Sita Devi was a devotee of the Mahadev, she wore a Rudraksh pendant and a Rudraksh mala as well. And of course, since she was a warrior, her body was adorned with battle scars, which she wore as a source of pride. She didn't try to hide it. It was a source of pride for her. So, in conclusion, I think there is a lot in here which gives you an idea of how to imagine Sita. Leave the reins loose on the horses of imagination and try and fill in the colors on the picture that I have painted for you and the picture that the artist is also painting here for you. Today we have a charcoal artist who will be doing her magic while I speak to you of the weapons that Sita would use. So, this is a second clue to help you design the cover. So, the weapons. What kind of weapons did Sita favor? The first weapon that I would like to speak of is a lathi. Now, I am sure many of you guys have seen lathis, especially lathets, in movies. Many of them happen to be male, but there are fantastic female lathets as well. A lathi is essentially a strong bamboo stick which expert warriors can swing around and break people's head with it. Sita was an expert in the lathi, and like I said, Sita actually started practicing with the lathi at a young age of just 8. She was quite tall for her age and quite strong for her age. That is the lathi. The second weapon that Sita favored was the spear. She started learning it in her Gurukul days, and she even had the ability to kind of flick a spear up with her foot. There is a training session I describe in the book where she flicks her spear up with her foot and catches it exactly at the balance point. Those of you who know the technicalities of a spear, you would know that actually a spear, there is a balance point on the shaft, where the weight of the spear, the shaft on one side and the rest of the shaft and the weapon on the blade on the other side actually balances exactly. The weight is equal on both sides. That is a perfect place to hold a spear and throw it from. She also knew instinctively how to hold the spear exactly, where it would be on the palm of her hand with her thumb pointed back, the other fingers pointed forward, and she would fling it forward with a flick of her wrist at the end to give it the maximum force, keeping her feet steady, because while running and throwing a spear could add force to the spear, but standing and throwing would take greater effort, but would ensure that your aim would be exact and precise. The third weapon that we will speak of when it comes to Sita is the knife, but a knife that she was presented which she always kept with her had a lovely handle which had the symbolic representation of Lord Parshuram. 3 Indus Valley script symbols spelling Lord Parshuram on one side. That is a knife that she kept with her at all times to fight any sudden battles that might emerge. And Sita was obviously an expert in the lathi, which is an anga weapon. She could shoot bow and arrows as well, but she did not like it that much. She preferred to fight with a spear, which can be classified as an ananga weapon, but if you fought it in your hand using it like a lathi, it can be classified as an anga weapon as well. She fought with a knife, and again this gives you an idea of the kind of body type that she had and how she liked to battle. One thing which is outside of the weapon space itself, but gives you an insight into the kind of woman Sita was, she loved chariot racing. and there is a scene in the book where we show her competing in a chariot. It's not a banner type chariot race. It's actually it's not a giant stadium. It's on a small pathway in a garden, which is actually far more dangerous because at that pace in a small pathway where you could easily, just at that pace you could just crash into a tree, anything, you can actually die in when you are racing fast through a small pathway with strong trees around you. And Sita loved the thrill of it. Chariot racing like this calls for supreme hand-eye coordination, very quick instincts, the ability to judge a path, the ability to understand the animals, your horse's ability to control them, and Sita displayed this in oodles of measure. Just in case anyone missed it, Sita, the warrior of Mithila, and you see the symbols at the top that, and we discussed it yesterday as well. That is actually the Brahmi script. It's the oldest deciphered script, oldest deciphered Indian script. I'm sure you're aware that the Indus Valley script is an older script, but that hasn't been deciphered as yet. So Brahmi is the oldest deciphered Indian script, and that's how Sita would be written. Today we have a brilliant sand artist who's going to be drawing with me, and today I'll be speaking of the settings, what would be on the background of the cover, and we'll be discussing two settings, and perhaps you could use either of them. These are things to whet your imagination. Feel free to use anything else as well if you want to, if you choose to. The first one that we're going to speak of is Mithila, the second is Dandakaranya, the forest that they're in. So we'll begin with Mithila. This was the city that Sita grew up in, and the city that she transformed. Mithila literally is the city for the sons of the soil. It was the city founded by King Mithi, and was a land of knowledge and philosophy, and it's unlike most big cities. What the sand artist will draw for you right now is an interpretation of King Mithi himself, the founder of Mithila. Now, unlike most big cities of the Sapta Sindhu, Mithila was not a river town. Once upon a time it was, because the river Gandaki did flow by Mithila, but the river changed course a few years before the events described in the book, and that changed the fortunes of Mithila. Gandaki started flowing by Sankashya, a city ruled by a sister royal family of a related royal family of the Mithila royal family. King Janak, who was the king of Mithila, his younger brother Kushodhwaj ruled Sankashya. Now, beyond the forest line, like I said, once you reach Mithila city, was a defensive moat, which had now been converted into a lake to draw water from. The lake circumscribed the entire city within itself so effectively that Mithila was almost like an island. Now, the moat had been converted into a lake which surrounded Mithila city effectively. There were no animals like crocodiles, etc., which are normally there on in moats, because Mithila didn't really need as much defense, because very few people wanted to attack it. It wasn't that rich a city, and there was a pontoon bridge which went across the lake towards Mithila city itself. Why a pontoon bridge? It's essentially a pontoon bridge is a floating kind of platform built on tide floating boats. It's a very quick construction. If you want to build a bridge, a pontoon bridge is one of the quickest to build and very easy to destroy as well, and it was cheap. So it was practical for a city such as Mithila, which was constrained in terms of resources and money. After crossing the bridge, one came upon the gates of the Mithila fort walls. What she is drawing for you right now is the pontoon bridge. As you can see, there are boats below that which serve as a base for the bridge, and the boats themselves float on the lake. Now, you cross the pontoon bridge and you came to the gates of Mithila's fort walls, and what you have there is the gates of Mithila, as the sand artist has drawn, the gates of the main fort walls. Once past the inner gate, you would encounter the city's beast quarter. That's what the sand artist is drawing right now. The Beast Quarter was an innovative free housing structure developed by Sita for what was originally a slum area. The Beast Quarter was such that people would climb 4 stores to go to the top of the ground floor, top of the 4th floor, which would be a ground above the ground, where there'd be streets, they'd be walking down. As you can see out there, there's streets, there are horses, and you couldn't get bullock carts up there obviously, but horses and human beings, etc. And there were trap doors on the side of the doors where you would descend into your house, and each house was built exactly where the slum hovel used to be, and would be 4 stories high, so it was nice and big. And the former slum dwellers and now Beast Quarter dwellers would descend into the house through the trap door and go deeper and deeper into their house. Since it was 4 stories high, it was a reasonably big house, and it was in exactly the same area where the slum used to be. So we are going to move to Dandakaranya, which is the forest to the south of the Narmada river, and that is where Sita, Ram and Lakshman spent most of their 14 years in Vanvas, in banishment. Dandakaranya is literally the forest of Dandak. Now, it was to the south of the Narmada river. Most of the region to the south of that used to be called Dandakaranya. Their own camp within the Dandakaranya was called the Panchvati. It was on the banks of the Godavari river. They set up camps along the banks of the Godavari river. Panchvati at a place with the 5 banyan trees, that's literally what Panchvati means. Excuse me. The river produced natural protection to the small rustic yet comfortable camp on one end of it. But I think what you will discover as we go deeper into the book is that Sita and Ram learnt a lot about each other in the camp of Panchvati. It truly defined their relationship because they shared secrets with each other, which was even bigger than their marriage. They became even bigger than husband and wife. They became allies to save the land that they loved, to save India. Okay, so in conclusion, this is the I guess this is the ending of the session to give you an idea on the settings and the atmosphere of Sita. Feel free to use any of the descriptions here and the lovely drawings made by the sand artist here. Let that inspire you to make a background for the cover. We've already discussed Sita's looks earlier, 2 days back, and Sita's weapons yesterday. Now, as you know, this was the last clue that had to be given to you to design the cover. I hope you derive inspiration from this, and something really, I hope to see something really magnificent when you guys send your covers in. Let me just repeat the key things that you should not forget. There is an official cover, okay, and that the ad agency is working on. What I would love it is for you to join me on a creative journey to create designs which we'll select 5 of them as as winning entries, and upload your designs on the Facebook page with the hashtag Design for Amish, or I'm forgetting the other one, Unearthing Sita. And of course, email it to contest@authoramish.com as well. There will be a contest jury and me. We will pick the 5 best entries, and you will be a special guest. If you are a winner, you will be a special guest at the main launch, and you will also get a small number of special edition printed copies of the books, which you can distribute to your friends. We won't charge you for it. There's nothing commercial in this contest. With those words, I'll end and look forward to seeing the covers that you guys send. Thank you for joining in. Take care, guys. Bye.